The Brackley-based team has struggled a lot when it comes to the technical regulations of 2022, and it seems like they haven't understood them 100%, which is why the drop in performance happened all of a sudden. While they were one of the loudest teams on the grid advocating for changes, they are very unlikely to change the outcome of the upcoming season, which would only go to show that the FIA was wrong all this time. This is something that will hurt Mercedes badly, and it has been recognized by their technical chief. Mercedes has entered the 2022 season with a very innovative design, one that involved the no-pod sidepod design, and it goes to show that it was a very interesting way of bringing innovations to a world that is constantly changing. But while the world thought that the season was over before it started, once they saw the new design, it was evident from the pre-season testing in Barcelona and Bahrain that Mercedes didn't actually do anything to their own advantage, and they have rather taken a step backwards compared to Ferrari and Red Bull. With that being said, the team had nothing else to do but complain to the FIA about the current rules and, therefore, try to change as much as they can for the upcoming season. In 2022, Baku was the race that changed everything for the 2023 season, in which the FIA had to intervene and raise the floor and side edges in order to combat the porpoising. While this was considered a good enough solution, it was far from it. Mercedes was a team that was very happy to have received this update from the FIA, but now that Nicolas Tambaz said that he is not sure how much the new regulations will help tackle the aerodynamic phenomenon of porpoising, we have a very interesting period ahead of us. Unfortunately for Mercedes, the vibes that they are receiving from the technical boss aren't something that they're looking forward to, with them actually not believing that Mercedes will actually perform better in 2023. But what is even more interesting is that Mercedes aren't particularly happy with the regulations that were implemented back in 2022 in the first place either. When talking about this matter, Mike Elliott, the technical chief of Mercedes, said, "Personally, whether it's because we've not had the greatest car, I've not been a huge fan of them. If you look at what they were intended to do with improving overtaking, they definitely allowed the car to get closer in the corners. But I'm not sure that we've not then lost out on the straights in terms of the wake and drag reduction you get as a result of it. So it does feel to me like we've seen significantly closer racing, we've just seen a different set of rules to work with." Well, the old saying, "whoever loses has the right to be mad," is very likely to be applied here, and it just goes to show that Mercedes aren't really keen on losing. The team was very good in the previous 8 seasons, but unfortunately for them, they understood the philosophy wrong. Just like Alpine, they could have found a solution to the porpoising by giving up some of the performance, something that wasn't that hard to do, but it seems like Mercedes didn't want to settle for anything less than perfection. One of the teams that understand the technical regulations perfectly well and without any problem is Red Bull. This is a team that has the genius mind of Adrian Newey to lead them into the dark. And keep in mind that Newey was present in Formula 1 in the 1970s when the ground effect was first implemented, and also in the 1980s when it was banned for safety reasons. That is why he was really surprised that other engineers couldn't anticipate the issue of the porpoising happening in the first place, and Elliott also spoke about the engineering perspective of the technical regulations, further adding, "I think as engineers in Formula 1, generally speaking, it's just a set of regulations, it's just a set of constraints you're trying to deal with. You're trying to produce the quickest car you can, and, in some ways, it doesn't matter to us so much what the outcome is. The outcome is that it's there for us as a challenge to overcome. I think what's more important is what fans want. What is it that's required to produce really good racing, and how can we get cars that do that? Have we made the step in the right direction with these? Maybe, but I'm not sure." Whether or not Mercedes will be able to adapt to the new regulations, only time will tell. After all, they were the team that advocated for changes in the 2022 regulations the most, and statements like this are expected to be made by them. What isn't expected is for them to fall behind in the coming years, but that appears to be a very real possibility now that Mercedes isn't allowed to improve performance under the powertrain freeze. Sure, they're banking on the implied sporting penalty for Red Bull and the fact that they'll have 20% more time to spend in aerodynamic facilities than them and 5% more than Ferrari, but it appears that these teams have built a car that won't rely on aerodynamic facilities at all. On the other hand, Mercedes does need a bit more time in these facilities because they got it all wrong from 2022 on, and the fact that they'll remain with the no-pod design just goes to show that they are keen on making it work the old ways. Sure, Wolff stated that the dynamics of the car would change dramatically and the DNA of the car would change, but the philosophy of the car's performance would remain the same, which Mercedes is desperately hoping will return them to winning ways. But from their side, it seems like they are already looking forward to the 2026 season, one that is supposed to bring movable aerodynamics in 2026, and one that will change the downforce settings for corners and straights. When talking about this matter, Elliott said, "We'd have to have something very different to what we've got at the moment. But there are definitely technologies out there that could give you cars that could follow closely in the corners and still give you a drag benefit down the straights." But Formula One and the FIA are working towards what will be the 2026 regulations, and if you look at what's already been released for the power unit for 2026, they're going to need very different chassis regulations to go with them. Hopefully, we'll end up with something that's a good step in that direction. One thing is for sure, Mercedes' hopes to be competitive from 2023 onward have taken a massive hit, and this is definitely something that they are not hiding ahead of the new season. On February 15th, we are set to see the new challengers from Brackley, the W14 version of the car, and it's very likely that it will be a very different one compared to the most troublesome car that has exited the production lines, the W13. When talking about the new car, Wolff was full of praise, saying that it was full of surprises, and that even though it looks very similar to the 2022 version of it, there are lots of changes that aren't visible with the naked eye. When talking about this matter, Wolff said, "It's full of surprises. The last time I saw it, I thought, oh, this looks like the same as the W13, but here's hoping it's not the same. I'm pretty much like you. I go into the wind tunnel and it looks like this year's car, but they say to me it's very different underneath. It's about the airflow, it's about the weight distribution, it's about the aeromap. Our car fundamentally changed mid-year. We changed the concept, but we couldn't see anything on the bodywork." With that being said, a very interesting season is ahead of us, and while the Mercedes haters are going to be happy to see their team underperforming, it's not necessarily a good sign ahead of us. We've seen that Ferrari fails to rise to the championship challenge once they're presented with it, and Red Bull is very likely to enter a dominating era, similar to the ones they've experienced from 2010 to 2014. Therefore, only time will tell whether the new regulations are good enough to propel Mercedes onto the podiums, and as of now, it seems like the Silver Arrows aren't really ready to compete with the big dogs. On top of that, they have to deal with Russell and Hamilton regarding who will be their number one driver, as Russell has shown that he can definitely be considered as the proper solution now that he's beaten Hamilton in the same machinery in 2022, becoming the third driver to do so. What do you think about Mercedes and their stance on the new regulations? Let us know in the comments below.